Hi everybody, it's Colin Stevenson, joined by my hero John Lenhart. Hi John.
Hi.
Now today we have got an epic show. It is countries and bigger systems, as far as I believe, John. Now you are the modeler of all modelers. You can model anything and you can find the intangible driver of literally everything, including countries. Now, anyone that knows anything about intangible drivers will understand that once you then use that to gain energy, understand it, use it to gain energy, everything becomes better. Yourself, relationships, etc. Now, do you believe that using the intangible driver for countries can make the country run better?
Right, but I think it's all of the information we've shared. So we've spent a year doing all these videos to help people understand the uniqueness of others and how to approach others and understand your own uniqueness and how to approach yourself. So everything we've done for a year is looking at an individual, and we've shown that that can help you with others and help you with yourself. Now we've started this systems approach, and today what we're going to do is we're going to look at these bigger systems. And for example, like you said, a country. Everything we're going to talk about in today's video is how you can look at a group of people as if it was a person. And you can treat that group as if it was a person using all the information we've already shared. So it's not just the intangible driver. It's the picture perspective, it's processing, it's everything we've talked about. And that's what we're really doing here is we're looking at systems. So remember, we talk about how there's a system has parts and it's what we call fractal. So my cell is a system. It's a part of one of my organs. My organ is a system. My organ's a part of me. I'm a system. I'm a part of a group. So that group or community is a system, then I'm a part of a country, and that country is a system. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at these groups and these countries and see how we can see them as a greater system and then apply everything we've already learned to help make those better.
I love that. So what we spoke about last time, I'm sure, was looking at the bigger system to fix what is wrong with the smaller system. So we're always scaling up. And that was Dr. Russell Akoff, or Akoff, as you call him. He was the one that explained this. So then you've managed to add that, his knowledge, and put words to his, his way of thinking. So what we're going to do today is, without taking people too far on, we're going to give them the bigger model perspective so that they can start to think about it. So it's themselves and their family. The family's the next biggest thing, and then there's the kind of greater family outside that. So no, it's going to be interesting.
Right. So where this starts is when people understand intangible drivers and uniqueness and picture perspective processing, people will say to me, well, how do I talk to a group of people? Because everybody in that group has a different uniqueness. And I can't, when they learn the value of how you specifically talk and it reaches people, how do you talk to a group? And I like to use Braveheart as an example. So what happens is he's giving this speech, and it's a group of guys. Now, all these guys are different intangible drivers, but all of those guys makes a system. And all of those guys have a unique purpose or defining property. So Akoff would look at all of those guys and he would say, this is a system. And I can ignore all the individuals and pretend like it's just one thing. Just like when you look at your car, you don't see the 4,000 parts of your car. You see car. He said, do the same thing. Look at that system. Now, if you speak into the uniqueness of that system, you reach everybody, even though their individual uniquenesses are different. So the speech is exhorter perceiver.
Right, okay.
You think about he's talking to this group and he's perceiving, he's making statements, very poetic. Why? To jack them up. And what happens is they all feel it and they get jacked up. So one of the things I tell people is if you look at the group, if you can see what the group's uniqueness is, and you talk into that uniqueness, you will reach every person in that system.
That's mega. So obviously people that have followed us for the year and understood all of these videos, because it's not a thing you can learn overnight. Like, I'm still learning with you daily or weekly, however often we're on. So when they come into understanding that, they can start to look in, because I have got even people now talking to me, kind of mutual friends that I've been kind of running through things, and they're like, they're definitely this and they're definitely that. So they're now looking at people at their uniqueness. And it becomes a habit, and a very good habit at that, to be able to do it. So when you were talking about the exhorter perceiver, with Mel Gibson, when he's on that horse, and your Sons of Scotland, you know, and he's perceiving, there you go, Sons of straight, and that's me, and it's all of them, and he's on the horse and he's tolling them all, and he's talking down, and they're all looking up. You know, it's absolutely exhorter perceiver. It's brilliant.
Right. So where I apply this is in the schools. I go work and help these teachers with their classes. So this is where I get the first response. The teachers go, okay, I understand each kid's individual, uniqueness. How do I talk to the class? And you have to find that. What tends to happen is the younger grades, the 6, 7, 8-year-olds, they tend to be exhorter housed. And when you talk to them, you want to be real dramatic, like something's happening right now, kids. There's a game going on. You're missing out. And every kid in that room just does this, and you tend to be more external. Those kids are more external. As you go up in the grades and you get to teenagers, they're more internal, they're more perceivery. You have to adjust that. So that's what we do with the teachers. When you think of a sports team, this is why these coaches say every year the team is different.
Yep.
Because what happens is that team. So let's take your version of football. That team, that football team is made up of some offensive players, some kind of mid players, and some defensive players. And when we talk about a system, how they're connected, I don't care how my goalie is necessarily connected to, a midfielder necessarily, but I care how the wings are connected to midfielders. It's like, remember, the profitability is always in the interaction. It's not in the part. The player is not what's valuable. How the player connects with the other players is where the value is. So what happens is when you break down that football team to like different parts, each part can have its own uniqueness.
Yep.
And then it all comes together as a uniqueness. So when you change out some players, the team feels different. And that's what a lot of coaches are doing, whether they know it or not, is they get this team, they have the regular season, and then you have the playoffs. And really what a good coach does is spend the regular season getting to know their team. And what a lot of coaches will say is, our team hasn't found their identity yet.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And then what the coach is saying is, I haven't figured out if this team is, teacher, if it's server teacher. I haven't figured it out. And so they talk into that team and they spend that season figuring out what clicks. And then once they have that, then they know how to talk to the team. And then at the end of the season, team changes.
Now, while you're on that, could they do, if we went through like the mean kind of intangible driver throughout the team, so if we tested the whole team, are we able to say, well, it's mostly this and this would help bringing it all together? Could you use that method for that?
You can't really do that. I'm going to say it's not going to be extreme, but really remember what Akoff said is the system has a purpose. You start with that step back. And so this leads right into companies. Yep. So you think about it, is you have a company and your customer service. What kind of intangible driver, what kind of uniqueness would be really good for your customer service organization?
Compassion server.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're a technical company, it might be compassion teacher.
Yeah.
But compassion server can cover compassion teacher. But you look at that and it's like, boy, oh boy, if your organization is your customer service is exhorter, if that's how they act, that's going to be an issue. Now, what would help that organization be compassion server? Yeah, having some compassion people in that is definitely going to help. But a person who's a perceiver teacher could sit in that organization, or perceiver server could sit in there and say, I know the mission of this part is compassion server to this, and my uniqueness is perceiver server, So give me the really tough,
Yeah.
Calls, because that's what I do in this system. So there is some overlap, but really the people aren't going to determine the system. The system has a purpose, and the people got to fit within that system. And that's why people can be mismatched.
Okay, that makes much sense. So we look for the main intangible driver for everybody, and then what we can do is we can break them down into smaller systems, dealing with different parts of the company, the family, or whatever else based on their actual individual uniqueness.
Right. So I'm going to take this now the other way before we get into countries. So now you look at two companies, and this company is giver server. This company is server teacher. When these two companies get together, what's going to happen? Well, the server teacher company needs to have that other company move to giver teacher.
Yeah.
It's going to be a frustrating meeting. So if I was organizing a meeting between these two companies to have them talk, and I've done this with these two companies. I'm giving you an example of two actual companies. I sat there and went, hey, giver servers, you guys got to move to teacher to get along with these people, or this is going to be a bad company, a bad meeting. This is just going to go bad. You guys, you understand your giver, server, that server's got to go to teacher. When we have this meeting, they're going to want to teach. Yeah. You might want to say to them, hey, could you explain this? Could you explain this? The other way, other companies server how? Where's the giver server company at? If they're doing really well, you guys want to walk in at exhorter or perceiver, go ahead. Walk in as perceiver teacher or exhorter teacher, because the giver servers can handle attention. They're doing well. If the giver server company is stressing out, if they're not having a good week, if things are not well with them, you guys, the server teacher, you might want to come in as server teacher. You might want to come in as compassion teacher.
Yeah.
They're really in trouble. And I've done that with these companies in several meetings going, hey, where are you guys at today? The server teacher needs to come in as compassion teacher because the giver server company is not doing too well. Oh, the giver server company is doing great. What do you want to do? You want to jack them up, exhorter teacher? You want to, help them grow, perceiver, teacher? What do you guys want to do? And so that's another way to look at this. That's why some of these company meetings, they'll go well, between companies, and some of them won't. I can sit there and look at it just like a couple, like a married couple going, wait, how did you approach each other? Because remember, the profitability is in the interaction. Yeah. That's in the exchange. That's where we gain more. We don't gain more by being two separate companies. We gain by that interaction.
Would you say that the people that with the meetings that go well between the two companies will be usually compassion server or server because they're able to adapt quite easily in terms of the individual hosting the meeting?
Well, when you say go well, the thing to remember is the server how can make a meeting not be bad, and compassion server can make it not be bad. But the thing about a server why, like I was saying with that server teacher, is the server why is your ability to make things profitable.
Yeah.
So when you want to gain a lot of profitability, you move that server why away from the other company's why.
Yeah.
When you want it to be really easy and nice, you move it towards it. In fact, let's just move to our final stage here, countries. So when you look at, and let's just take 3 countries to illustrate this. So you're from Scotland, I'm from America. We both kind of have a history with England.
Yeah.
So what's England? What's their uniqueness?
Perceiver teacher.
Teacher perceiver. Now think about it. They're teacher perceiver. They're backwards. They're always talking about the history of everything.
Yeah. Teacher
perceiver. They're always talking. In fact, I don't know if you watch The Crowd, but like every character is a perceiver in The Crowd because they're always just. And remember, teacher perceiver doesn't think they're the smartest, but they can prove you're an idiot. So every exchange in like The Crowd is like classically what we think the English is like. You say something, then they go, "Oh, you didn't bring your boots," and it's like, "Why'd you say that?" It comes off almost passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Small picture, internal. You don't know what they're thinking. Teacher perceiver. And it's like everything's a game. They say one line and then you got to sit there and go, now what? Why did they say that? And if you tell them the why, they look at you like, yeah, that's what I said. That's not what you said. But that's so that's, if you think of England, that's that country. And the people, when they act English, you get this teacher perceiver, small picture, very detail oriented,
Yeah.
and very, closed,
Yeah.
quiet. Okay. So let's look at America. America, exhorter server,
Absolutely, 100%.
big picture, external, everything's forward, everything's future. We want everybody, we'll do whatever it takes to get the best. We're going for the best. So that's not a good combination. I know a small picture, teacher perceiver, internal person who had a son who was exhorter server, big picture external. And unless that exhorter server went to exhorter perceiver, these two people did not get along. But look what America has to do to get along with England. We have to go to exhorter perceiver, which a lot of people consider to be bipolar.
Yeah. Now, just as you're talking about that, obviously we know that I was in the military, and we used to get the Americans over to serve with us, and we used to send people over to America. So we did kind of trade-offs with soldiers. Now, when they came over, or when there was a tour or whatever, there was, the big McDonald's, they had the Burger King, they had the KFC and all that all turning up in these big trucks. And the English guys had the ration packs and the rubbish food. And everything was just bigger and louder. And, it's for the guys, where for the British Army, it wasn't for the guys at all. It was for the army. And it was for the army that was, no, you can just do the bare minimum so that you know your place in society. And, it was just two totally different. They got on, and that was where the trade-offs came. So just what you're talking about just now. So the Americans used to swap like KFC burgers for like cigarettes or cans of kind of British lager, this type of thing. So there was always a trade-off. But in terms of the way that they worked in the bigger system, it was that's where the programming came from.
So do you remember you and I did an interview a while ago, and you said, we have American food over here. And I stopped you. I go, Colin, what's American food? I'm dying to know what's American food. You said Moorish. That's exhorter server. I don't know, but it's more. Big picture, it's more. So I thought that was hilarious when you said it, because back then when you said, I went exhorter picture, exhorter server, big picture, external, you nailed it. So Scottish is compassion exhorter.
Yep.
So you think about this, it's really kind of interesting, that combination. So compassion exhorter, you see the very dramatic, the fun loving, but they have a heart.
Yeah.
And they feel a lot of emotions. And if they don't know how to get those emotions out, it's not necessarily going to go well. So Americans got to go to exhorter. They go over to Scotland, exhorter.
When I find that there's a lot of different types of violence in Scotland as a whole. Now, we know we get that in every country, but when people get drunk and people go out, they're always wanting other people to feel other people. They take on other people's energy, and and it causes them to compassion. But if they're not felt, and then they're told to do something, which happens, exhorters exhort, and then it takes on, I find it's very, very difficult to go out and have fun in Scotland without having that kind of tense feeling in the air. Now, they're all perfectly friendly and they all care and they'll all help. But going down to England, or imagine going over to America, which will be very soon, and going for a night out, I've always felt more relaxed in other spaces, because as you talk about that compassion server, that wanting to feel, to be able to serve, if everyone's doing it and they're not able to feel and they're not being understood, it's very difficult, and they all want to exhort as well, and it's very tense, I feel.
You nailed it, because remember, we talked about a person's natural internal tension is the difference between their how and the why. So we said England is perceiver and teacher. There's one unit of difference, and they don't handle tension very well. People don't handle tension very well. Okay, they get intimidated. That's why they do the snarky. Exhorter server, Americans, we don't handle tension very well. And so that's why it's like you can feel safer. Compassion exhorter, there's a lot of natural tension in your country. And that's what you're saying is there's a lot of natural tension and people are more expressive. What we say is when the external tension is less than your internal, you'll share everything.
Yeah.
And so you'll get a lot of people sharing, a lot more personal stuff, let's say in Scotland. But now notice all of this. If you are trying to help the mental wellness of Scotland or the mental wellness of England or the mental wellness of America, if you have one plan for all of those, you think people are robots, you think nations are robots. And this is what we've been talking about since you and I've been doing all these videos.
Yeah.
I hope people can see the way I would approach an exhorter server, big picture external, is the way I would approach America to help their mental health issue. The way I would approach a teacher perceiver internal small picture is the way I would approach England. Yeah. The way I approach a compassion exhorter is the way I would approach Scotland. Yeah. And the problem is all these countries share how they're doing all this stuff in different places and applying it. And it's no wonder it doesn't work, because psychology thinks we're all robots. Yeah. Psychology thinks that we don't have a uniqueness, that the same thing could work for everybody. And everything we've been talking about since the beginning of all our videos is your first step needs to be understanding uniqueness, then understand the thought process. Yeah. And our next video, we're going to talk about the thought process.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to this. So basically what everyone needs to understand is there's natural tension usually in every country. And it's because it's made that way. The programmer from the bigger system that runs the country makes it that way so that nobody's happy and restful and peaceful coming together. And that's my belief anyway. I know that might sound a bit harsh to a lot of people, but I believe if everybody came in harmony and they all understood each other in a way under one power, who's up the stairs, this is where everyone can come about and they can come and be naturally peaceful together. So that's probably left a lot of people to have something to think about. So bring on the next video. Thank you very much. Take care, John.
Bye.